What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Existential Stoic podcast. Quick fix number we will put in the description. Having a better attitude.
46.
46. I'm Randy. I'm here with my buddy Danny. How's it going, Danny?
What's up, Randy?
So today we were talking about having a better attitude. Some people's attitude is just garbage, and other people have a
It just
great
sucks.
attitude. Yeah. So today we're going to talk a few quick tips, 3 from me, 3 from you, for how to have a better attitude. I'm curious, would you say you have a good attitude?
I think I have a better attitude than I had in the past. I mean, I think it's like, look, I think everybody goes through, life is about change. I think we have moments where we have great attitudes, bad attitudes, but I think the trick is not to get stuck in that bad attitude, because that really does, I think, just destroys motivation, destroys our lives, makes us victims, and ultimately, it makes it very hard to climb our way out of that.
That's a really good point. I would say very similarly for myself, my attitude has been getting better as I've been getting older and wiser. So I expect by the time of my death, I'm going to have a perfect attitude.
Oh, I think I'll smile at my death. I'll have such a good fucking attitude at that point, right?
Exactly. So a quick 3 tips from each of us. My first one is put service first. So everybody's in it like, what's in it for me? And this is kind of the alternative to that. And the reason for this is that, like, once you get, I read a whole bunch of books about like spirituality and people who have made, millions and millions and millions of dollars. And once you get to this point, like, they both say the same thing. They're like, once you get to the point where literally everything you want is fulfilled, the best thing that you can possibly do is give to other people. It's actually like more rewarding than giving anything to yourself. So I think part of having a better attitude is actually focusing on service for the other people. Like, I know myself personally, I like when I've done service type things, volunteering, different stuff like that, it feels good. It's like the most selfish thing I can do is give to others. So I would say the first one for having a better attitude, service first.
It does feel good. And I think there's so many ways you can give. You can give time, you can give money, you can give just assistance, advice, whatever. I mean, I think there's so many ways to help other people. And you're right. It feels great, and I think it's a great way to improve your attitude, because you also see real consequences of your actions for others. And sometimes easier to notice those positive benefits when others are receiving them, not yourself.
Yeah. And it's something that's very simple. Like, even, sometimes just a smile or like an understanding look or like being patient with
Holding the
somebody.
door.
Yeah. All of those things. Very simple.
You can just make your community a better place, right? Like they say. My first one is actually, acknowledge how you feel. And I think this is important. Like, when we're in a bad mood, we have a bad attitude, we're more likely not to identify it and actually look externally to blame something, to pretend like we're a victim, rather than acknowledging that we feel a certain way. And when you acknowledge how you feel, you can take steps to actually improve it or change it. But if you never acknowledge it, you leave yourself no room for change, or you make change impossible.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good one, because I've noticed a lot that, like, sometimes the bad attitudes try and sneak up on you. It's not like anybody really has the intention to be a complete jerk or to be very cranky or whatever, but it's just like they sneak up on you. They catch you when you're tired, when you're hungry, when, like, all these different times. And it's like, that's when it happens. And you, like, noticing where you are now then gives you the opportunity to improve.
I know you make a good point too. It's like also recognizing when those attitudes tend to come. Like, I found myself, man, like when I'm tired and exhausted, it's like the worst time, because those attitudes can come and gain hold, right? And if you don't recognize that, you feel like you're like, why am I getting depressed at these moments or whatever? And you're not really addressing it. So yeah, it's super important to understand.
So my next one is having the attitude, you're important. So this is kind of counter to the attitude that everybody wants to feel important. Like, everybody wants to feel important, and we're doing all these crazy things to prove to people how important we are. We're posting nonstop to Instagram. We're trying to buy expensive cars and houses and watches and all these different things to show that we're important. Whereas really all that everybody wants is somebody else to say, hey, you're important. So actually having that attitude going into it and realizing it's not like the other person's more important than you. It's just we're two important people having an interaction, and I
Yeah.
acknowledge that you're important. And that's like a huge thing, because when you start doing that with people, they'll see that you are like leaps and bounds beyond most other people who are just like me, 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 me. All of a sudden, you recognize the importance. And plus, you get to have a much better interaction. Like I hear it from salespeople all the time, from books that I read about sales, that like when you actually find things that you like about the people and you become friends with them, like the sale happens on its own. It's selling
Yeah.
something to your friend is easy. And so like having those interactions where we recognize the importance of the other person, that can really help smooth relations.
I like that one. It's funny. I was just listening the other day to a thing on how you can improve education with these simple steps. And one of the things was like the relationship between student teacher. And one of them was just finding things that are similar between you so you can identify their importance and overlap. And once you do that, they seem like a real person. They're not just another number or whatever. And it makes the relationship tons better and more effective. And I think you're right. I mean, it's not that hard, right? I like that one. That goes with my second one actually is recognizing that a positive mindset requires exercise and starting to think of our mental health like our physical health. Like we all know that like if we want to be in good shape, we got to exercise, we got to eat right, we got to do these things, and we have to do them regularly. That you can't just like do it once in a while. Your mind is the exact same way. Like there, if you want to have a positive mindset or a better attitude, you have to work on it and you have to reinforce it. And you have to be mindful of it because it's going to come and go. Just like, you might not want to exercise some days. Some days you're going to be in a shitty mood. And you have to kind of force yourself, right, to make that switch and to do the right thing. So I think thinking of it that way has helped me a lot because it's made it easier to not think of my attitude as like this thing that just comes that I have no control over, but rather as this thing that is part of me that I have a ton of control over and that I can intentionally alter or dictate how I choose.
Mm. And it's like the repetition, doing it again and
Yeah,
again and again. It's kind of like, and especially when you don't feel like doing it. Like
no, God, yeah.
there was one book that I read. I can't remember the name now, but it was basically like those are the days when it actually counts. The rest of the days is just practice. Like the days when
Yeah.
you don't want to do it, when you're feeling miserable and you don't want to go to the gym or you don't want to be happy or any of those things, those are the actual days that matter because that's when you can actually get some gains. The rest of the time, it's just standard.
Yeah. You're just keeping it standard. And you're right. You get some gains and you also reinforce it in a way that I think really helps you long term too, to keep up that activity. Yeah.
That's a great one. So, my last one for having a better attitude is smile. So, this one, easiest thing ever. Like people go get tons of plastic surgery, and then instead of looking like a 40-year-old or wanting or looking like a 20-year-old, they look like a 40-year-old lizard. So like
Yeah.
instead of one of the simplest things you can do is just smile. It's free. Everybody can do it. And not only that, but it actually has benefits. You feel better from smiling. And this this is kind of like being intentional with your attitude. So like having a better attitude is a choice. And it's something where you can choose to be happy, you can choose to be unhappy. And he who thinks he can and he who thinks he can are both usually right. So if you think you can be happy, you can. If you think
Yeah.
you can't be happy, you can. But like step number one is just smiling. And most of the time it starts smiling when you don't feel like it. Like I've
Yeah.
started doing that a lot recently is when I'm feeling stressed or when I'm feeling not happy or whatever. It's easier to move our physical body than it is to move our emotions. So if we get our physical body in
Yeah.
line with how we want our emotions to be, eventually our emotions will follow.
I like that too, because it also speaks to the fact that like laughter, smiling, those things are also contagious and they also influence our mood directly. So it is not just a physical response, it's also something that does affect our attitude. It's a good one. And it is something intentional we can do. And my last one, so my final one is actually, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention it, right? Practicing gratitude and small delights. We talked about this a million times, right? At the end of the day, getting out a notebook, jotting down 3 things that were small delights, small pleasures. And the whole point of this exercise, and we've talked about this, is just to make you more consciously aware, more self-aware of the good things in your day, the positive moments, whether it's a sunset, a good cup of coffee, a moment you spent with your pet or with a friend, or having a good conversation, or, whatever the hell it is, a comfy chair. I mean, anything. And those small delights, they add up, but they also make you more aware. And you can be grateful for those little things. And it's been proven that gratitude is like one of the best ways to improve your attitude, and be happy. Like that, it's necessary for happiness.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because years ago I watched this TED talk called Hardwired Happiness. And the guy was saying how his goal for everyone was that they would wake up and they would sink to their knees in gratitude for the wonderful day that they have, for the opportunities and everything. And like back then, it didn't seem realistic. But since practicing with the small delights and recognizing like it's just layer upon layer of things to be grateful for. Like every once in a while, there are days where I just literally sink to my knees in gratitude, because it's just like,
Yeah.
wow, this is awesome. And like, I'm sure a lot of people listening are like, that's BS. Like, you guys are retarded. What are you smoking? But it's like, it's literally just start doing it. And, it's hard at first, but just stick with it.
No, I'm glad you mentioned it too, because it does. It builds and it compounds over time. And at first, I definitely didn't feel that way, but it does. You start to feel that way and you start to really see things differently. It's amazing. But it's just practicing it every day too. It's that repetition is crucial.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there you have it. Nice and simple, short little quick fix number 46 for having a better attitude. Thank you for joining us today for the Existential Stoic podcast quick fix. Make sure to like, subscribe, share. I'm Randy. That's Danny. I'll see you later, Danny.
Later, Annie.